Hi, I'm Randy Cantrell. Welcome to the Year of the Peer podcast with Leo Batari. This podcast is based on a simple truth. Who you surround yourself with matters. Author and keynote speaker Leo Batari will interview thought leaders from all walks of life who will share how they leverage peer advantage and show you how engaging your peers more purposefully can hold the key to greater success in business and in life. Today's guest is Peter Carrington. Peter was born and grew up in Ireland. His background is in sales and marketing, and 4 years ago, his career took a significant change in direction when he and his wife, Wendy, embarked upon the development of a luxury hotel barge business in southwest France. Today, the five-star St. Louis Barge offers one of the most highly rated barge experiences in France, offering week-long charter cruises for up to a maximum of 6 guests. The barge has 4 full-time crew dedicated to providing a relaxed and informal backdrop to what is a unique holiday experience. We welcome Peter to the show.
Peter Carrington, welcome to the program. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Leo. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Of course, you and I just spent almost a week together, just a few weeks ago now, aboard the St. Louis hotel barge. You know, one of the things, of course, this program is about is that who you surround yourself with matters. We know that we're known by the company we keep, and we all know that sometimes special things happen when we're all in the same boat. And so I thought it would be very appropriate to have you here on the program. What I'd like to do, though, first, before we get into the whole, what you do as far as the barge and kind of our trip and all, is I'd love to talk a little bit about and get a sense from you, a bit of your, journey to where you are. Most of the people we've had on the program, a woman, her name is Tina Martini. She works for a global law firm who I'm guessing, and we talked about this, when she was 5 years old, she didn't want to be an intellectual properties attorney, right? So we find our way, into careers often influenced by people we meet along the way and things that we're influenced by. So, of course, I know this is a fairly new, venture for you. So I'd love to get a sense of kind of your background and what kind of led you to what you're doing now.
Where we are. Okay, well, long story short, my background has always been in sales and marketing. I started in Ireland in Irish textiles, did some training with them, moved to London. Worked in their London office selling textiles to high-end hotels, airlines, liner companies, Cunard, people like that. From there, I was headhunted by a company in New York, JP Stevens, and I carried on doing similar type of work, but in the European, Middle East sales regions. And from there, headhunted back into Ireland to work as sales marketing director for a clothing company, a men's tailoring company. From there, sadly, local manufacturing became too expensive, and that had to come to an end. Production was moved off to Morocco. So I did what I knew. I became an agent for European clothing companies, some German, some Austrian, and one Danish. The Danish one also had a women's wear collection, and my wife and I then got involved with them in retailing. They were keen to develop retailing in the UK. So we ended up with some retail businesses. And then along came the internet, and that caused us problems because as a small independent retailer, it became very difficult very quickly for us to compete effectively against bigger companies with bigger budgets, and indeed startup companies who did only online retail, so they didn't have the overheads of the bricks and mortars and things that we had. And around this time, a very good friend of ours who'd been at school with Wendy, my wife, he and his wife had invited us to come cruising in the Canal de Midi, just as a holiday. And honestly, Leo, I think I told you when you were with us, I did not want to go. I had a vision of caravans on water cruising down these chock-a-block canals, very busy. And anyway, we went because our kids were at school with their kids, and that was fine. And after that, sadly, our friend's wife, Pamela, passed away due to cancer. We'd all reached a kind of a point in our life where we wanted to change. You know, he was now single. the retail was getting very difficult for us. All of our kids were going to universities and that kind of thing. So it was a natural time in our lives to do something different. I'd always been cooking. Wendy has a design background. You've obviously seen the style of the barge and the way the barge is presented. And Minnis loved barging. He wanted to pilot. So we thought, how difficult can it be? We are Irish, so we lack a little intelligence in certain areas. We thought, well, okay, So we looked around and found this barge. And again, long story short, over the next 6, 7, 8 months, we put together a deal with the owners that would allow us to take over the business. That we did. And in 2014, we commenced trading with St. Louis and developing the barge and raising its profile and raising the quality standards. He has then, or since then, now met another lady who he has married, and she has a couple of children from a previous marriage, so it is no longer possible for him to work in the business. So sadly, we've had to say au revoir to Minnis this season. And as you know, Wendy has stepped up and become the pilot. She had already trained as a pilot, so she is now our full-time pilot. I was cooking, but you'll be very grateful that I'm no longer cooking. And we, by pure coincidence, came across Martin and Julia, rather they came across us. And it has been an absolute delight to have them with us this season, and the standards have gone higher and higher again. But clicking into your theme for your program, which is obviously surround yourself with good people, we've been blessed. We have ended up with 2 seriously talented people living in our area, 10 minutes from where we have our base. Wendy is doing what she does extremely well, and I'm kind of redundant in the background running the business and doing the tours and generally that kind of thing. So that's how we end up where we are.
Well, and it's fair to say, too, that if you didn't take that barge trip that you weren't too excited to go on to begin with, and you, in all likelihood, would not be doing what you're doing today.
No. You and I would not have met. I can assure you. The chances of our paths crossing, no. And it was interesting to go and see that, because it's a pace of life, it's a change of life. And I think, as we discussed again when you were here, when we have people coming on board now, most of them don't know what they're coming to. And I'm sure you guys, when you joined us, were much the same. You had a kind of a thought of what it might be, but what it turned out to be, I'm happy to say, it was something that was very, very different and very, a very good experience.
I think that's exactly right. One of the interesting things, of course, as you know, Ed Landry, we were celebrating his 70th birthday.
Yeah.
He had this idea. In fact, he talked to his wife about wanting to do it and get several other couples aboard. Of course, you can't cruise in Bordeaux and not have wine be a central, theme, wine with great food and all as part of it. And it wasn't something that she, wanted to participate in it. She said, why don't you see if you can find a bunch of guys to go with you? So sure enough, we get invited to this. But I would say in just about all of our cases, this was something that was very new to us. It was something that I probably wouldn't have known to select for myself. And maybe even if I did, I'm not sure, I would have necessarily. We know we have tens of thousands of travel options available to us. And yet when, we stay open and we listen to people we respect around us, and they said, hey, you should try this. This would be really interesting. And we sure did. And I tell you, the experience was wonderful. And I want to, I guess, before we keep talking about kind of this experience, I'd love for you to talk about what this is like, what you seek to create in terms of an experience for people. The barge, of course, is an opportunity for 6 people. They have it to themselves. There's a crew of 4. It's a rather remarkable experience and very different from any kind of either large cruise or river cruise or anything like that. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, I think that would paint a picture for people about what we all experienced as we were all in the same boat together.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
I think, Leo, what we don't come from hospitality backgrounds. Martin and Julia do, but Wendy and I do not.
And explain Martin and Julia in terms of the roles they play, just for our listeners, so they know how they balance out the crew.
They have joined our crew this year. Julia just rang out of the blue and said, I'm back in France. I've been in New Zealand. I've been working in Scotland. I'm keen to hostess on a barge. And so we got chatting, and she had Michelin star front of house experience. And she mentioned in the course of our chat that she had a boyfriend who was a cook, or a chef, I suppose I should say.
Yes.
I said, is he good? And she sort of gave a Gallic shrug and said, he's all right. Yeah, he's not bad. And I said, well, it might work. Would he be interested in coming and having a chat? So he came. And it turns out, as you now know, he has 3-star Michelin training. He is an exceptionally talented chef, but he was about to leave the industry. He is a very gentle person and not given to being at ease in the professional kitchen. He finds the pressure of the professional kitchen not for him. So cooking the way he cooks on board now allows us to develop a very intimate experience for people who join us. And I think that is a big difference in going to a hotel or going to a restaurant, going on a liner cruise. You're not joining the crew, and we make a big play amongst ourselves and to guests and to agents who represent us, that if people come to us, they're coming to cruise with us, to spend a week with us, to hear about the region, to hear about us as well, and for us to hear about the guests. So it's a very personal experience, and that, I think, is what makes it so different. I mean, we had a guest on 2 years ago, I think, from Canada, and he was sitting one evening with me after everybody had gone, and he said, Peter, the difference here is I can stay in a 5-star hotel anytime, anywhere. And sure, everything's great. The sheets will be clean, the food will be good, the staff will be courteous. But when I go out the door, I don't know anything about them. They don't know anything about me. And that's the sum of the experience. And he said, so it's the same everywhere I go. If it's a 5-star hotel, of course the sheets will be clean, and of course the food will be good, and of course the service will be excellent. That's why it's 5-star. But he said, here, it's a personal thing. And that is why it's so important for us when we're building a team to make sure that the team are very relaxed and very confident in their own roles, that they feel completely supported within that role, and that they are free to develop that role and to grow into it. And to use that trite phrase, make it their own. But it's got to be made their own within the parameters that the business runs. So we spend a lot of time encouraging, supporting, and making, for Julie and Martin in particular, making them feel safe in the environment in which they're working. And by that I mean that they are free to do it their way, to our standards, but to have their own personality, which I think you'll have seen the way we interact when you were here. Like the silly glasses that Martin brought me, and for your listeners that this means nothing, but basically you can fill in later. It shows he's got the confidence and he's relaxed with me, that he knows, we're the owners, but he can have a bit of fun at my expense, and it's taken in the spirit in which it's played, and that really matters. And it's that personal thing, it's the way we interact, that then we interact with the guests.
So speaking to the story of the glasses, of course, as I understand it, your reading glasses had essentially fallen into the canal, never to be retrieved again. Martin, on one hand, wants to make sure that you've got a pair of reading glasses, but of course, took the opportunity to make sure he would get you something that might look a little silly on you at the same time. So all in good fun, and yet, very fun part of it. I want to mention too, though, that, as you talk about the 5-star experience, I would align that with your standards that you have there, certainly. And yet at the same time, you provide people the opportunity for that personal experience. And I think that as us, as guests and being with you, on the barge, it was really rather extraordinary in terms of what happens when you're all on the same boat. We are there in a pretty limited space. It gets people to sit down and have real conversations, and oftentimes, we weren't always connected, although you've got Wi-Fi there, and it was very helpful from time to time to use that. But mostly, it was really us connecting with one another. both as passengers and with you and the crew. And I think it inspired the kind of rich conversations that experience has, that maybe we don't get often enough. And I know, we have only our experience to draw from in terms of our particular cruise. Certainly you've taken a number of people out there, but I'm sure you've seen that dynamic play time and time again.
It is time and time again, Leo. It is normally it's either a family group or as your group was, friends who are traveling together, who know each other quite well in many cases, but perhaps have busy lives. Paths don't cross as frequently as they would wish. But when you're on the barge, nothing happens quickly. At least we hope nothing happens quickly. And it is the pace. Everything slows. We can only move at 5 kilometers an hour, basically a brisk walking pace at best. There is time to sit on the deck and just watch the world go by, listen to the birds song, reconnect with nature, just look at the trees, whatever. And we find every week that people have come and they have the chance, exactly as you expressed it, to have proper conversations. You're dining together. You're not having to make decisions about where will we go to eat, what will we eat, how will we get there, who will book the taxi, who will book the restaurant, how long will it take to get there. And we go to a lot of effort, as you appreciate, to do a different setting, to make sure the food is varied and of exceptional quality, so that you can relax in the confidence that everything that you're going to have, from the Mercedes picking you up, to the food that Martin is producing, to the wines that we serve, to the comfort of the cabins, to the appointment of the shower rooms, everything is exactly as you would wish it to be. And it's a very, very unique experience. And when people come on board and they sit for the first time and feel safe with the food, safe with the wine, and I'm using the word safe a lot because I think that is where the confidence to relax comes from.
Yes.
They are not anxious about what is going to happen tomorrow. Do these people know what they're doing? Sure, we could have got a cheaper van to pick you up in. Of course we could. We've got a top of the range van, but we've done that on purpose because your first impression has got to be, oh, okay, this is good. Not, oh, I hope the book's better than the car. It's very important to us that everything that you see and touch and everybody you talk to who interacts with you, that's very important,
Well, I know you were being a bit self-deprecating on the chef front, but let's be clear too that there were a few of the recipes that Martin prepared that were your recipes. That was really terrific, and that was a great thing to see. The other thing you had brought up, that there's some flexibility built in. Now, clearly, there's some opportunities as we know kind of more or less kind of what our day is going to look like. There's opportunities for change. But I think one change of in particular that was not part of the plan on our trip, that was a pretty remarkable, I think, collaborative effort to get us. We were actually able to intercept stage 11 of the Tour de France, which was fantastic and a great experience for everyone. Yeah. A first-time experience for everyone, including you, I understand.
Including me, yeah. I've never seen it before. Yeah. Short, but interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but that again is unique to this style of holiday, and we say to people, we don't mind what you want to do if it's available within the time frames that we've got. And we say to returning groups, so long as the barge leaves from this point and arrives at this point in the week, what happens in between is entirely a matter for discussion and agreement. If we can't do it, we'll have to say, well, it'll only because we physically can't do it. Whether we move a meal a bit later or we have a meal ashore because of time constraints, that's fine. So it's the flexibility, it's the pace of the holiday, it's the uniqueness of it. We can tailor it to the group. We have groups who want nothing but wine. We have groups who want to cycle. We have groups who want to walk. We have groups who want to explore the villages and the social history and the culture. All of that is possible. This region opens up so many opportunities for people. But the overall and the top thing is that they have a uniquely personal experience that allows them to just relax, where nothing has to be processed as far as they're concerned in terms of where will we go today, what will we do, how do we book it.
Well, what I thought was really consistent as well is, in addition to the very personal experience on board, when we did visit different places in St. Emilion, or we went to where the Armagnac was made, these were people that you know well, who are close to what they do, family operations in many respects. And there was something that was just very genuine and very real about all of that, that I think extended beyond what we experienced on board. And I think really piqued everyone's interest. I think one of the things you had mentioned about our group was that, yes, we were sincerely interested in learning, about what people do everywhere we went. But I think that was, in many respects, inspired by the people who you connected us with. And I think it was very inviting in that respect. What are your thoughts on that, Peter?
I think everywhere we have gone and everybody that we have worked with, my thoughts are that I'm pleased that you enjoyed all of those interactions, because those people have been met by us many times. They have impressed upon us their ability to look after a group. They have an interesting story, and we would never want to take guests, let alone leave them with anybody such as Patrick, if we weren't completely certain that they are to our standard. And coming back to your theme, it's about surrounding ourselves with the quality that we need. But that extends beyond just the people that you can.
Right.
It extends to the people who support the barge behind the scenes, the plumbers, the tilers, the electricians, the welders, the fuel providers. All of those people must be fit for purpose. They've got to be able to respond quickly, and they've got to know us well enough to do that for us. So if we have a pump that doesn't work, I need to know the plumber will arrive as soon as he can, which is normally within 2 hours, and fix it. It's no good having some plumber that can see you next Tuesday if your pump's not working on Wednesday. We need to keep the business functioning, we need to keep the thing rolling, and it needs to be seamless. So we're very, very fortunate that we have, over the last 4 years, made the connections and settled on the providers of the services, the providers of the wine, the providers of the food, that are all fixed, and they know they can rely on our business, and in return we know we can rely on their support. And we've made a deliberate decision to go that way. We don't look for the cheapest people, we look for the people who are the most reliable and best, so that we can run the business at the level it needs to run, and not be casting around trying to find somebody to do something on the cheap. We're not interested in that.
Sure. No, and I think in many respects, you create that level of safety that you keep talking about, both in terms of from the time we're picked up to, this is a region of the world that can be intimidating to a lot of folks, both in terms of the language, the food, the wine. It can be very involved for sure. And yet you, I believe, and your crew made it very approachable for everyone. So you kind of broke down barriers for us and said, well, this is not as complicated as we might think. This is not as something that we should be, afraid to trying a lot of new things and understanding, Bordeaux in particular, which I think many people would be surprised is a lot of small producers, not any big corporate behemoths, essentially, but, a lot of, chateaus there that aren't particularly large, that produce incredible wine. And I want to mention one thing, though, about something that I learned being at the vineyards, and it was something we learned in Bordeaux, and something that was actually reinforced in my trip to Porto when I visited a vineyard just north of the city. And that was this idea of these vines, and that they're not babied, right? In other words, the idea is that they oftentimes through adverse weather and all kinds of things that they are in many respects forced to tough it out, because that's what builds character in the vines and essentially builds character in the wine. And it's kind of a metaphor for us personally, I think, sometimes too. But it was really great. Among the many things we learned on your cruise, I really enjoyed hearing that.
Yeah, but again, you've got to have people who can read their audience. So Patrick, our wine expert in Saint-Emilion that you spent the day with, we've got to have enough trust in him that he can read the level of interest that you have, the level of knowledge that you come with, and then tailor what he is saying to your group. And what he is saying to your group will not necessarily be at the level that he will be talking to the next group next week. And because we've known him now for 3 years, we know it's safe hands. I come back to safe, because that means we know we can leave any group with him. If they know nothing about wine, he will not look down his nose at them. He will treat them with respect. He will give them the level of information and education that is appropriate to that group. And we can relax as the owners of this business. We can relax that whatever group goes to him will come away with more knowledge and will come away with an appreciation of wine at a level that works for them. And we've seen it all the time. I mean, week in, week out. And it's very important. So we want to demystify and debunk a lot of stuff that some people talk about wine as if it's a complete mystery, and others talk about it as if they know it. But of course, wine, you're never finished.
No.
If you're enjoying wine, enjoying wine with food, it's a great subject. But it also, we love it because it brings conversation together. It brings out a lively conversation about food and your kind of food in your area and how that has developed. And we just love hearing, your stories as well as you guys hearing our stories.
Well, I know I can speak for myself, and of course everyone who was part of the group that I went on the cruise with. Just had an incredible, not only learning experience on every front, but really an enjoyable, highly personal, incredible way to experience Bordeaux type experience, and it was really quite remarkable. Definitely please say hello to Wendy for us, and same thing with Martine and Julia, because all together you made the experience for us so amazing. But before we go, I would love to have you let our listeners know that if they're looking to have a really highly personal, wonderful, unique experience of the Bordeaux region, how they can learn more about St. Louis barges.
Well, the easiest way is obviously go to our website, to www.stlouisbarge.com.
And that's St. Louis as S-A-I-N-T. Spell it out, right?
stlouisbarge.com.
Right.
And there are all the contact information and all the information about what we do. And I would just say to any of your listeners, if they want to talk to me directly, my number is there. We always enjoy talking to guests ahead of their arrival. I find it's much easier for them to voice concerns or interests and help just make the thing as seamless as possible. And it is seamless. When you came into Bordeaux, we picked you up there. So, fly into Bordeaux, fly into Toulouse, you don't need to do a thing. We can come and get you and bring you to the barge and then cater for whatever the interests are of that group.
Yeah, and people can also check out your Facebook page as well, which is another, popular way, certainly, to find out about you.
Absolutely, and we are working hard. I'm just the wrong generation for that, but I am under strict instructions to develop my skill level in that area. But yes, we have a Facebook, and it is building, and we're getting much more active with it. And if they want to read the reviews there or the reviews of this year on the website to further endorse what we do, I think they'll be very confident if they were to come to us. They'll have a very good time and enjoy a completely different holiday.
Well, Peter Carrington, thank you very much for being on the show. Thanks for providing us an illustration of what all being in the same boat can be all about. And just appreciate you joining us here today. And thank you so much for your time and for a terrific experience just a few weeks ago. Thank you.
Well, I'm delighted, Leo, and thank you very much indeed for the opportunity to talk to you again. And hopefully we will meet again and talk again in due course.
You bet.
All the best. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thanks for joining us today. To learn more about Peer Advantage, to submit questions to Leo and our guest, and to subscribe to the Year of the Peer podcast, please visit us at leobottary.com. It's LeoBottary.com. This podcast is produced by me, Randy Cantrell, hosted, of course, by Leo Bottary. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod, Vibe Ace, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license.